Welcome to Fazza Poetry World, where hearts turn into poetry. I still do not understand how I survived after losing you. Some nights, the world looks beautiful from the outside. The stars shine. The city glows. People laugh with their families. Couples walk hand in hand. Dreams are being made somewhere. But tonight, as I sit alone looking out at the endless lights of Dubai, I realize something painful. A broken heart can exist in the middle of paradise. Everyone believes a palace is a place filled with happiness. They see luxury. They see power. They see wealth. But nobody sees the loneliness hiding behind the golden walls. Nobody sees the man sitting alone in silence while memories slowly tear him apart. Tonight, the city sleeps peacefully. Yet my heart remains awake. Because there is something I have never been able to forget. Someone I have never been able to replace. Someone I still love. You. Even after all these years. Even after all the distance. Even after all the pain. I still carry your memory like a wound that never healed. In my hand, I hold a small ring. Most people would see only a piece of metal. But for me, it holds an entire lifetime. A lifetime of laughter. A lifetime of dreams. A lifetime of promises that never came true. Every day I look at this ring. Every day I remember your face. And every day my heart asks the same question. What would our life have looked like if the world had simply allowed us to love each other? I remember the first day we met. Strange how a single moment can change an entire life. It was a simple charity event. Nothing special. At least that is what I thought. People were busy talking. Volunteers moved from table to table. The room was filled with noise. Then suddenly I saw you. You were standing near a registration desk holding a few papers in your hands. You looked nervous. Beautiful. And completely unaware that you were about to become the most important person in my life. You smiled softly and asked for help filling out a form. Such a small moment. Such simple words. Yet when our fingers touched for a brief second, something happened inside me. Something I had never experienced before. It felt as if my heart recognized you before my mind could understand why. For the first time in many years, I forgot who I was. I forgot my responsibilities. I forgot my title. I forgot the expectations of the entire world. All I saw was you. And somehow, that was enough. Back then, I kept my real identity hidden. Not because I wanted to lie. But because I wanted to feel normal. For once in my life, I wanted somebody to know me without the crown. Without the palace. Without the royal family. Without the endless attention. And that person was you. When I was with you, I was not a prince. I was not a public figure. I was not someone trapped by duty. I was simply a man. A man who laughed freely. A man who smiled honestly. A man who had finally found peace. The happiest moments of my life were never inside royal halls, they were never during important ceremonies. They were never during famous events. The happiest moments were the simple ones. Walking beside you on quiet beaches. Listening to the waves as the sun disappeared beyond the horizon. Watching your hair dance in the desert wind. Hearing your laughter echo beneath the stars. Drinking coffee inside your small home while talking about dreams that felt endless. Those moments were not expensive. They were not grand. But they were priceless. Because you were there. And wherever you were, happiness followed. I remember how you used to laugh when I tried to act serious. I remember the way your eyes sparkled whenever you became excited about something. I remember the way you looked at the world. You saw beauty in places where everyone else saw nothing. You made ordinary days feel magical. You made difficult days feel lighter. You made life feel worth living. And before I knew it, I was hopelessly in love. Not with your beauty alone. Not with your smile alone. But with your heart. Your kindness. Your honesty. Your soul. I fell in love with every little thing about you. The way you spoke. The way you cared. The way you made me feel human. For the first time, I began imagining a future. Not a royal future. Not a planned future. A real future. One where love mattered more than status. One where happiness mattered more than tradition. One where it was simply you and me. And for a while, I truly believed that future was possible. I truly believed love would be enough. I truly believed nothing could separate us. But sometimes life has different plans. And sometimes the greatest love stories become the greatest heartbreaks. But sometimes life has different plans. And sometimes the greatest love stories become the greatest heartbreaks. At first, everything felt perfect. Not because our lives were perfect. But because we had each other. And somehow, that made every problem seem small. The world outside could be complicated. The future could be uncertain. But whenever I looked into your eyes, I felt safe. I felt home. And that feeling was something I had spent my entire life searching for. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And every moment with you became another memory I wanted to keep forever. I remember watching sunsets with you. The sky would slowly turn golden and orange. You would sit quietly beside me. Sometimes we talked for hours. Sometimes we said nothing at all. Yet even in silence, I felt understood. Not many people understand what loneliness feels like when you are surrounded by thousands of people. But you did. You saw the sadness I tried to hide. You saw the pressure I carried every day. You saw the responsibilities that followed me everywhere. And instead of running away, you stayed. You listened. You cared. You loved me when I felt difficult to love. That is why losing you hurt so much. Because you were never just a girlfriend. You became my best friend. My safe place. My peace. The person I trusted with the most fragile parts of my heart. Then came the day everything changed. A day I wish I could erase from my memory. A day that still follows me everywhere. I remember standing outside the palace gates. My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. Because I had finally decided to tell you the truth. No more secrets. No more hiding. No more pretending. You deserved to know who I really was. When you arrived, I could see confusion on your face. You looked at the palace. You looked at the guards. You looked at the luxury cars. And then you looked at me. Your eyes searched for answers. Answers I could no longer avoid giving. Slowly, I told you everything. I told you about my family. I told you about my responsibilities. I told you about the royal life I had hidden from you. For a moment, you said nothing. The silence felt endless. I could hear my own heartbeat. I was terrified. Not because I feared losing my title. Not because I feared being exposed. I was terrified because I feared losing you. Then finally, you spoke. Your voice was soft. Almost a whisper. You asked me one simple question. Who are you really? And I remember looking straight into your eyes. Not as a prince. Not as a royal. Not as a public figure. Just as a man deeply in love. And I answered honestly. I am only me. Because that was the truth. Behind all the titles. Behind all the wealth. Behind all the attention. There was only a man who loved you more than anything in this world. For a moment, tears filled your eyes. You smiled. And you held my hand. That should have been the beginning of our forever. But instead, it became the beginning of our ending. Because the truth did not stay hidden for long. Soon, people found out. Rumors spread. Questions started. Conversations happened behind closed doors. Family members became concerned. Advisors became involved. Suddenly our love was no longer private. It became a problem everyone wanted to solve. They spoke about duty. They spoke about tradition. They spoke about expectations. They spoke about the future of the family. But nobody spoke about my heart. Nobody asked what I wanted. Nobody asked what made me happy. All they saw was responsibility. All they saw was reputation. All they saw was the crown. And slowly, the pressure began surrounding us from every direction. People who had never met you judged you. People who knew nothing about our love made decisions about our future. It felt unfair, cruel, and impossible to fight. But I was ready. I was ready to face every challenge. I was ready to walk away from everything. The palace. The titles. The luxury. The expectations. None of it mattered anymore. Because every dream I had included you. Without you, none of those things meant anything. One evening, I sat alone thinking about our future. And I made a decision. A decision that shocked even me. I was willing to give up everything. If choosing between a kingdom and you became necessary, I would choose you. Every single time. Because love like ours only comes once in a lifetime. Money can return. Power can return. Status can return. But true love is rare. And I knew I would never find another heart like yours. I wanted to tell you that. I wanted to look into your eyes and promise you that no matter what happened, I would never leave. But fate moved faster than I did. One night my phone rang. I still remember the exact sound. I still remember the exact moment. Because that call changed everything. When I answered, I immediately knew something was wrong. Your voice sounded different. Weak. Broken. As if you had been crying for hours. My heart began to sink. I asked if you were okay. You stayed silent. Then finally, you spoke. And every word felt like a knife. You told me that you could not continue. You told me that our relationship had become too heavy. Too complicated. Too painful. You said you could not be the reason I lost my future. You said you could not be the reason my family suffered. You said you loved me too much to destroy my life. I remember begging you to stop. Begging you not to say those words. Begging you to stay. I told you we would find a way. I told you we could fight together. I told you love was worth fighting for. But your decision was already made. And sometimes the people who love us most are the ones who break our hearts trying to protect us. Your voice trembled. Mine completely shattered. For the first time in years, I cried without shame. I cried like a child terrified of losing the person he loved most. I pleaded. I promised. I prayed. But nothing changed. And then came the moment I still hear in my nightmares. The moment that divided my life into two parts. The life before losing you. And the life after. You whispered softly. I love you. And then the line went silent. The call ended. And with it, a part of my heart disappeared forever. That night, I sat alone in darkness. Unable to move. Unable to think. Unable to breathe properly. The world outside continued normally. Cars moved. People laughed. The city stayed alive. But inside me, everything had stopped. Because the woman I loved was gone. And for the first time in my life, I realized that some wounds cannot be seen. Yet they hurt more than anything else. And that was only the beginning of the pain.